Hi, I'm Evan, and I am 1 year on testosterone. Uh, it's been a whole year since my first update, and it's crazy to think about how much has changed since then. And I kind of can't believe that it's been a whole year. I guess I just haven't really been paying attention to, of course, doing updates and stuff. So I haven't really been keeping track of everything. So the fact that it's already 1 year is kind of mind-blowing to me. But yeah, it's a whole year. And it's been an interesting year. Not just because of testosterone, but in general. So yeah. But as far as changes over the past year, goodness. Well, of course, my most noticeable difference is my voice, I think. It's way deeper now than it was before I started. I have those voice pitch analyzer. I did that prior to starting testosterone, months before, I think in November of 2018. And then I did one in August of 2019. So it was 3 months on T, and I think there was a pretty noticeable difference there. And then I just did one recently. And yeah, the the difference from prior to starting T to now is crazy. I already had a relatively, I would say, mid-range. My voice wasn't really that high before starting T, so yeah. But obviously I have a much deeper, much more obviously masculine voice now than I did prior to starting, which is really great for me. I really like my voice the way it sounds now. Although admittedly, it's kind of hard to control sometimes. I don't get voice cracks as much as I did before, a couple months ago, but I definitely still get them, and I still have moments where I it feels like my voice is about to crack, or it feels like I'm straining it when I'm not really doing a whole lot. But yeah, I think that's the most drastic thing that has changed over this past year. Although in the past few months, it hasn't changed as much, I don't think. But yeah, so voice difference, that's the biggest thing. Other than that, I have also experienced a lot of fat redistribution. So prior to starting testosterone, I didn't have a particularly curvy body. I think my most noticeable thing was my thighs. I still have really wide thighs, which was a huge source of dysphoria for me because, yeah, it made me really uncomfortable, and it also made it impossible to find pants that fit. And I still have thick thighs now, but they are not as wide as they were before. So, I feel a lot better about that, and it's also easier to find pants that fit, which is great. And in recent months, I've noticed that I seem to have lost more. I don't know if it's just losing weight specifically. I don't think it's losing weight. I think it's that I've lost fat specifically in that area because my pants are starting to fit weird again. So I might have to get new pants soon. But yeah, fat redistribution mostly in my hips and thighs. I have a less narrow waist than I did before. I had a pretty narrow waist prior to starting, and since I've started, it's kind of widened out while my hips and thighs have gotten narrower. So I have not a straight body shape, but it's definitely less curvy than it was before, which is awesome. I feel really good about that. It makes me really happy that my body is a lot more aligned with what I want it to look like. There's also a difference in my face. I don't think I had a super round face um, before starting, but I um, have a more noticeable jawline now. I mean, it's not like super prominent, but it's there and it's a lot more visible now, and it's a lot more angular now. Um, Again, I didn't really have a round face before, but it's less round now. And it's obvious in pictures. I'll put comparison pictures so that you can see like prior to starting versus, you know, maybe a couple months in versus now. There are some differences. Other than my face and my hips and like my waist and stuff, another kind of interesting thing is a change in the size of my chest. Again, prior to starting, it wasn't like I don't have a big chest to begin with, but it has gotten smaller since starting, to the point where like I don't have to bind anymore. I didn't really have to before, but now even less so. I have like white t-shirts that I can wear without binding. It's like not noticeable at all. So pretty interesting that that happened. I wasn't really expecting much of a difference there, but I'm happy that it's changed. Other than those two things, acne and like skin. I had really good skin before starting, like really good, rarely broke out. I barely needed to do much with as far as skincare went. I never had to deal with acne. Since starting, I've kind of had some acne, which has been a bit of an inconvenience because I didn't really know how to deal with it, and I don't get a lot still. I never really got a lot, but more than I'm used to, so I've kind of had to figure that out. My skin was really oily for a couple months after starting testosterone. I would say the first 3 to 6 months, somewhere in there, that's where it was like really, really oily, and I was constantly like breaking out, and it was rough. Since then, it's kind of calmed down. I still get breakouts, but not as much as before, and I'm kind of back to having that like dryish skin, which I'm used to dealing with. So yeah, my skin got awful for a little while, and now it's kind of back to being normal-ish, although I do break out more than I did before. Prior to starting T, I barely had any like visible like thick hair because my hair is just in general really fine. Like there's a lot of it, but it's really fine. And that went for the rest of my body hair. And since starting, it has thickened out a lot more. Most notably on my legs. I think that's where it's like the most visible, which was a pretty early change if I remember correctly. I think that was something that happened in like the first, in somewhere in those first months is where, the first like 6 months or so is where that really became noticeable. Only recently did my arm hair like actually darken. I've always had like really fine arm hair, like almost invisible, and it's darkened a bit more since starting. Not very much, but mostly in the past like 3 months or so. So that hasn't been a huge change. I have gotten some facial hair though. I don't expect to have a lot, but I'm fine with that. But I have gotten some, mostly in a pretty concentrated area, like right here, and then that mustache area. That's about it. My face in general is, I think, hairier, but it's still kind of that like peach fuzz-ish texture, so I don't really count it as facial hair. Yeah, but that's kind of the biggest changes. Oh, interesting thing that I didn't really expect, but I'm happy about. So prior to starting testosterone, I was like really anemic. Like I had chronic anemia. So it was just this issue that I had to constantly deal with, and I had been dealing with for years. But since starting, I'm no longer anemic anymore. Like, I used to have to take iron supplements and everything, and that's not something that I have to do anymore. It's not an issue at all for me, which is so great because being anemic is really not fun. So yeah, that was an unexpected change, but I'm so happy about it. So yeah, that's pretty much what my year has been. Like, it's been a lot of little things that I didn't really notice, just because like I look at myself a lot, but you know, looking back and comparing myself, you know, all those months ago to how I am now, how I look now, how I sound now, is pretty crazy to see the differences. But yeah, that's pretty much it.